Welcome back, guys. Well, it is time to wrap up the year of 2016. This video was a lot more difficult to make than I anticipated. It's been a really terrific year for Linux in 2016. So many new developments, so many areas where Linux has made progress. And Microsoft, on the other hand, has shot itself in the foot a few times. So I think the potential for users to switch over from Windows or Mac to Linux is huge at this point in time. Couple things I think working against Linux. I think that variety is a good thing, but sometimes anything in excess is is not very good in my opinion. And I think for a new user that is thinking about making a move from Windows or Mac to Linux, the first thing they do is they look at, okay, so what is Linux? What are my options? Once they do that and they start doing some research, they find hundreds, if not thousands, of different combinations of distributions, desktop environments. And so it can be somewhat confusing. I don't really know what the answer is because it is a free and open source environment, and so you're going to have lots of variety, and you're going to have lots of people introducing new distributions for the Linux community to evaluate. So, in the end, it is really up to you as an individual to select the distribution that you think will serve your needs best. Now, when I took a look at 2016, I wasn't really looking at it from a new user's perspective. I didn't want to, I mean, if I looked at it from a new user's perspective, I would have eliminated many great distributions just because of the complexity, the level of complexity. And so I didn't want to do that. So what I did is I took a look at the year as a whole. I obviously favored the distributions that I particularly gravitate to. If I look at Distro Watch, for example, I like Debian, but if I look at Seduction, for example, it's based upon Debian Unstable. I downloaded and installed a couple of different desktop environments from this latest release, and I had trouble with both of them. So I can't really recommend an unstable Linux distribution to anybody, whether you're a new person or an experienced user, because you'll probably run into problems. So what I've done is I have broken it down. I'm going to give you the top 10. Um, they're broken down by flavor. So in other words, I've got Ubuntu, Debian, and Arch. Those are my three favorite families of Linux distributions. And so I broke it down into those three groups. And then from those three groups, I will select at the end of the video what I think is the Linux distribution of the year. And so let's get started. Okay, so I took a look at distributions based upon innovation and proprietary content. Anything that makes it easier for the end user to install, configure, and maintain their system on a daily basis. That is the criteria that I used in order to select the distributions that are on my list. So let's go with the first group, which is Ubuntu based. Ubuntu Mate has been a leader since its inception. The distribution is known for its innovation and proprietary content. If you take a look at Ubuntu Mate, and I do have it installed in within this computer, and I'll show you what I have installed when we're at the end. But if you look at Ubuntu Mate, it's easy to install, it's easy to maintain, it's easy to configure. From an Ubuntu standpoint, I think Ubuntu Mate is number one. Then we have the 1610 Ubuntu family. Of that group, I personally prefer Lubuntu. But 1610 is within 1610, they've made it much easier to install gaming. So, for example, if you want to use a Steam game, it's available and it's easily installed. If you want to run Hearthstone, Battle.net, it's easily installed. Gaming is an area that I think needs some more attention if we're going to pull in the majority of Mac and Windows users. I mean, those the majority of those users want to do some gaming. And so unless we address gaming as a separate entity, then I think we're going to limit ourselves within the Linux community. It's a lot more important than people think. It's probably the number one detriment to Linux at this point in time. And Ubuntu 16.10, both Ubuntu Mate, Lubuntu, Xubuntu, I've had no problems at all installing Steam and Battle.net. And so those install very easily using the wine tricks method that I have outlined in a previous video. Okay, so the next in line for the Ubuntu based would be Linux Lite. Now Linux Lite uses the XFCE desktop environment. Again, proprietary content, ease of installation, ease of configuration, ease of maintenance. Linux Lite has addressed all of those. There are a few issues still with Linux Lite, but they're minor. UEFI install is still not available, but they're making progress and they're open to suggestions and they listen to their users, and so that's extremely important. The next, obviously, is Linux Mint, and again, these are not in any particular order. These are what I consider to be the best Ubuntu-based distributions of 2016. Linux Mint 18.1. There's really nothing I can say that hasn't been already said. Linux Mint is the flagship of Ubuntu Linux. They put a lot of time and effort into configuring and putting out a product that most people would be happy to use on a daily basis. And so that is the Ubuntu-based top distributions of 2016. My personal favorite among the group is Ubuntu Mate 16.10. Okay, so moving on to Debian-based distributions. In 2016, Debian has made some inroads in order to become more user-friendly. I was shocked when I downloaded the Debian testing stretch, which is version 9, non-free version, and everything works perfectly. I've got it installed on this computer, and everything right down to Steam, Battle.net, Hearthstone, everything works perfectly. So that is on my list. Sparky Linux has always put out a terrific Debian product based on Debian testing, so it gives the end user a lot more software codecs, drivers, makes it easier to configure, easier to maintain. They have a ton of proprietary content. I would be remiss if I did not list Sparky Linux on my best Debian distributions of 2016. MX16, if you take a look at the criteria that I set for this roundup, this 2016 review, MX16 hits every single criteria. They are innovative. They have addressed installation. They have addressed configuration, and they've addressed the maintenance of the system. They have done an outstanding job in 2016 with their MX16 release. They are my favorite Debian distribution. And let's move on to Arch-based distributions. Manjaro had a few hiccups during the year when they introduced their 1610. However, I do believe that the 1610 XFCE version of Manjaro, again, easy to install, easy to configure, easy to maintain. They have a lot of proprietary content, a lot of utilities that make it easier for the end user to thoroughly enjoy Arch Linux, which admittedly can be difficult, especially for a new user. But I believe that Manjaro, as it's presented in 1610, can be used by a new user, a new Linux user. The installation is easy, configuration is easy, maintenance is easy. And so Manjaro is my number one, my personal favorite Arch-based distribution. Also on the list for 2016, I believe OB Revenge deserves consideration. OB Revenge has presented a distribution that uses the Calamaris installer, which is used by Manjaro. It's a very easy installation process. The developer has done a terrific job making it easy to install, easy to configure, and easy to maintain. And again, there are still a few bugs that need to be addressed, but the developer is listening and implementing based upon suggestions from the user base. And so that's extremely important, because listening to the end user and implementing suggestions that make sense for the distribution is critical. In this case, OB Revenge is really doing a terrific job in presenting a product that anyone can use and enjoy Arch Linux. My personal favorite is Antergos OpenBox, and then adding LXD to the mix. And that's what I'm sitting in right now. This particular desktop is Antergos OpenBox, and I have added LXDE. It's fast, it's easy to configure, not quite as easy as Manjaro or even OB Revenge. However, once you get used to it, if you have a little bit of time spent within Linux, you would be able to configure it with no problem at all. I have some videos available for tweaking LXDE, and it makes it a lot easier to get things set up the way you want it. So this particular desktop that I'm sitting in is Antergos with the OpenBox install, which is actually a window manager, and then adding LXDE. And I have a video on how to add LXDE to your Antergos OpenBox, and then you can have a system similar to this one that I'm sitting in right now. Last but not least, in Arch, you have the Feliz installer. Of all of the installers that are currently available and being maintained, my preference is Feliz. Feliz has evolved and become much easier to use. Again, the developer is listening to the user base and implementing suggestions. So it's terrific the way it is, and I'm sure it'll undergo some improvements in the future that will make it even easier. But my personal favorite installer for Arch Linux is Feliz. Now, the time has come for me to tell you what I think is the number one Linux distribution for 2016. And the number one distribution of 2016, you're looking at it, MX16 Linux. MX16 in 2016 has released a distribution that anyone could be happy with on a daily basis. If I look at the criteria for the selection process, I said innovation, proprietary content, making it easier to install, configure, and maintain. That's basically the definition of MX16. If you look at the menu and you do a search just under MX, and you take a look at what the folks at MX Linux have done in order to make the system easier to install, to configure, and to maintain, it's absolutely mind blowing. I mean, take a look at everything that's here. It is unequaled within the Linux community. Just the MX Tools menu makes things so much easier. I mean, if you take a look at some of the things that used to be a headache, especially in Debian, um, installing Broadcom. Now it's installed out of the box. Installing NVIDIA. Now it's a couple clicks and you're done. You saw I just had a pop-up tell me that I have some updates waiting. This little box, that's an MX Linux configuration option. 17 updates waiting. The little box is transparent when you're up to date and it turns green when there are updates available. It's absolutely incredible what they have done with this distribution. Now, if you take a look, I've got BattleNet installed, I've got Steam installed, OBS Studio is available out of the box, Simple Screen Recorder, GUVC View, you name it, it's available. They have made so many inroads. And I would normally qualify that by saying so many inroads within Debian. But you know what? This doesn't apply only to Debian. MX Linux is not just a Debian distribution. MX Linux does the job on a daily basis, period. So no matter what flavor of Linux you prefer, whether it be Ubuntu, Arch, or Debian, MX Linux, in my opinion, still rises above the rest. So, guys, do yourselves a favor, download MX Linux, install it. You will see what I mean. Run it for a few days. It's absolutely unequaled, in my opinion, within the Linux community. The developers are constantly listening. I remember when OBS Studio wasn't available um, in the stable repo for MX Linux, and I just sent a question over to the developers and bang, it's there. OBS Studio was moved into the stable repos. And that's what I'm talking about as far as listening to the user base and responding. MX Linux has ticked all of the boxes, they've touched all of the bases, they've hit a tremendous home run with this distribution, and I'm sure it's only going to get better. But the distribution of the year for 2016, in my opinion, is MX16. Okay, so guys, let me go over a couple things with you. A lot of people are going to wonder why I have not included Peppermint 7 as part of the best distributions of the year. And I didn't include it in my Ubuntu-based distributions because Peppermint 7, I think, has taken a step backwards since they became a hybrid. Originally, they used the LXDE desktop environment um, exclusively. Everything was LXDE based. Now, that, in my opinion, made it a little bit easier because you were dealing with one desktop environment. There's lots of information online. You can get information on how to configure the the desktop. Even on Peppermint 7's website, they're still stating that they use LXDE as the default desktop environment. But they have complicated it, in my opinion, by introducing some aspects of XFCE. They're using the whisker menu, the XFCE panel, but if you take a look at the configuration options, you don't have the XFCE settings manager. Um, they've created a kind of a hybrid with the Peppermint configuration center, and to me, it's evolved, but not in a good way. I think they need to pick their desktop environment and use all the aspects, all the configuration aspects for that particular desktop environment. So if you're going to go with LXDE, stay with the LXDE panel, stay with the LXDE menu. If you're going to go XFCE, go XFCE across the board. Let people have all of the aspects of XFCE. I don't think it works. For me, personally, it doesn't work to have a combination of the both. So that's why I did not include it in my 2016 wrap-up. The other thing is, I said I was going to show you what I have installed on on this particular computer. So if you look at gparted, you'll see I have Manjaro Mate 1610, Antergos OpenBox with LXDE, Ubuntu Mate 1610, MX16, Debian testing non-free, and Linux Lite. So that is what I have installed on this particular computer. So guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for stopping by the channel today, and I'll see you soon. Take care.